Today we are joined by entrepreneur slash renaissance man, best-selling author, top 10 app developer, 50 million downloads on his podcast, The Fat Burning Man Show. Abel James, welcome to the show.
Mark, thank you so much for having me.
Abel, it is my pleasure. As I was preparing for our interview, I wasn't exactly sure where to start because you've done a million different things. All right. But I figured let's start here. Let's start at the very beginning of how the Fat Burning Man Show got started. And let me ask you this. When was that aha moment? Why did you decide to go into health and fitness?
Yeah, because I hit rock bottom in my early 20s, like before a lot of my friends did, from a health perspective. Long story short, I was paying off my loans in Washington, D.C., working really hard in consulting for my day job, doing moonlighting, computer programming on the side, and playing gigs on the nights and weekends. So that part was a little insane, but even worse, I had great health insurance that came with that job. And so I really wanted
Mm,
to use it. And so I followed that doctor's advice to go really low fat, almost zero cholesterol, and follow a lot of the typical stuff that was coming out of doctors, especially in those years. And I got fat and sick within about 18 months. He put me on a half dozen different prescription meds. And I was kind of falling apart with several different conditions. And then I lost everything in an apartment fire
ugh.
and was pretty much broke with none of my own clothes, literally. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I'm just like, man, you got to do some work on yourself. If the rest of your life is completely in shambles and out of your control, at least you can say, whatever you're doing is not working. Let's dial this in a little bit. And for me, being a huge nerd, I like to go down the rabbit holes, and just kind of obsess about things for better or worse for a while. And when I did that, I was shocked by how much of what I came to believe was true about health from the doctors. I've been a lifelong runner and athlete, and from the running magazines, from some of those coaches, the rest of it is just complete hogwash nonsense. And so I did some of the opposite of that, got insanely good results, and I got mad enough to want to start my own thing to help other people realize that if you're willing to do certain things, some of the fundamentals of health and movement and nutrition and all that, then getting the results you want and the body composition you want, and also improving your athleticism isn't so very far off. And it's not that hard to do. It's just a matter of putting it into action. And I never felt that way in my life because I was trying to do the wrong thing so hard
Mm.
that it made me fatter and sicker than people around me. And that made me mad enough to really it put a fire under my butt to see that at the time I was working with in consulting Fortune 500s and the federal government, state government, stuff like that, seeing that change was not coming from the top down.
Yeah.
And,
Well, I got to
there's a
say,
lot of people kind of go ahead.
well, I love the idea of taking control of what you can, right? Where everything else feels like it's out of control. Start with the simple
Yeah.
things like making your bed or going for a jog or maybe eating even a little bit more healthy. I absolutely love that. And I think, especially for all the after hours entrepreneurs out there, we can definitely empathize with that problem of feeling like things are out of your control and okay, we're going to
Yeah.
take control. So I love that you started getting to this health and fitness. I'm going to take care of one of my greatest assets, my actual body. But how did you turn it from a personal passion into something that you could actually turn into a business? How did you make that jump?
A little bit at a time. And also the landscape was completely different in the like late 2008, 2009, early 2010s when I was going hard into blogging.
Hmm.
RSS was really big back then.
Hmm.
It was kind of uh, a mature or low tech version of social media where you could subscribe and your feed was actually what you wanted, though, and it didn't have ads in between it, whatever. So we had a lot of people reading that way. But when that started to shift, and when I saw podcasting was something that was coming on, I really wanted to go into it, and I was really burnt out as a live musician, which I'd been playing over 300 shows a year for a while, and I burnt myself out on that, and also felt like I wasn't getting results anymore. Live music was really starting to tank around then, relatively speaking, compared to where it was at before.
Hmm.
And so I figured might as well start a podcast and just start interviewing people who I was personally very interested in and were my heroes, nutrition authors or people who had lost over 100 pounds or accomplished these insane athletic feats. And it's just like, this could be a dream job type thing. I could be serving other people and helping to educate other people while just being insanely interested in what we were talking about.
So
And
even
just
back in 2011, you saw the financial promise there.
I saw that there was, well, relative to music,
Sure.
it's interesting because I see my business almost like, and my team running a band. It's a small team. Everyone has a role, but they can take on the roles of other people if they need to,
Mm, yeah.
But for the most part, I would so much rather work with a small team that's all on board. And when you run it more like a artistic or passion endeavor as opposed to just like a strict serious business thing, you can have a lot more fun with it. I learned a lot from my wife, who was a career, one of the first professional video game players. She was on a all female pro video gaming team that toured the world,
What
playing just
game?
like making boys cry. Mostly Halo for her.
Oh,
She did first person shooters. She's insanely good. But anyway, then she worked with video game companies. So when I met her, I was doing consulting, just like crusty, wearing a suit, shaking hands, and like really biting your tongue and not really expressing yourself. And then the first like video game party that I went to was just mind blowing for me, because I'm just like, these people are in the right business. They get to goof off and have fun all the time. And so I think that more people would be served, especially in today's saturated and social media environment, where it's a lot easier to share multimedia, by just expressing yourself a bit more and having more fun with it, being more playful.
so you got a couple really good pieces of advice here. A, be true to yourself, because when you're waking up, a lot of us can empathize with waking up, going to a job that we don't love, we're not passionate about, where our
Yeah.
creativity is stifled. So you can follow that passion. All the after hours entrepreneurs understand that. And the second great piece of advice: listen to your wife. You can't go wrong, ladies and
Great
gentlemen.
piece of advice.
To listen to your spouse. Pro advice. I've been married a little over 5 years, together with my wife
Nice.
over a dozen. So that's key advice here from Abel. Thank you so much for watching. I'm glad you enjoyed this episode. I've got several other episodes right here for you. Smash one of these videos to make sure that you don't miss out on the tips, tools, and tactics of industry experts. Let's take that side hustle full time. Smash one of these links.